It's time again for the Science Bowl.
Zoo Parade for 5. What big teeth the hippo has are actually a pair of these. Science Potpourri for 10. Would a snake most likely eat every day? Every week, Dateline Science for 10. Why are some elephants wearing necklaces these days? Green things for 15.
And now, here's your host, Mr. Z himself, Dave Zarin.
Thank you and welcome to the Science Bowl as we continue with our round-robin competition here with the 3 semifinalists in this year's competition for the Science Bowl Championship. We have Greenbelt, we have Robert Goddard, and we have Martin Luther King. 2 of those schools will come back to play for the county championship. This round-robin, where each team plays twice, will determine who has the highest scores, and that means those will be the 2 finalists. All right, here on the Science Bowl, things are changed. If you're a regular watcher, you'll notice that we don't have students in the studio, of course, because of the pandemic. They're safely at home. I'm here in the studio. We still have 50 points that we give to our teams just for showing up and looking as good as they do, but we have no buzzers here. We'll have 18 questions for this team and the other team they'll be playing, Robert Goddard, and we'll take a break in between. And the thing that does stay the same, all the categories of questions that we've been using for 35 years still are the ones we're using today. And here they are.
Okay, Mr. Z, here's today's categories. Green things, questions about plants and all things green and growing. Zoo Parade, a Noah's Ark of questions about animals. Body systems, we'll see how much you know about yourself, about things like breathing and growing and digesting your food. Let's get physical. Questions that test your knowledge of physics and chemistry, earth science and space science. Then there's Science Potpourri. Here's a grab bag of science questions, everything from air pollution to the kitchen sink. And finally, Dateline Science. We'll ask you about science history and science in the news.
All right, it's time now to meet the team from Greenbelt Middle School. They've distinguished themselves already in this year's competition. They're here today trying to decide whether or not they will be one of the finalists in this year's competition. Would you say hello, please, to our captain, Evan? Evan, wave to everybody if you would. Donna, give us a nice wave and a smile. That girl, good. And Alexis is here too. Nice to see you, Alexis. All right, guys, you did so well before. I know you're going to do well as we play this round-robin game. Here we go. We're going to start with green things for 5 points. At the senior prom, girls often wear corsages containing orchids, while guys on their tuxedos typically wear a carnation, a marigold, or a rose. You haven't been to a prom yet. We didn't have proms last year because of the pandemic. Maybe you have brothers or sisters who went to a prom. Choice, carnation, marigold, or rose on a guy's tuxedo. Evan.
I'm thinking rose. Do you guys agree with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, rose.
Actually, it's the first one. It's a carnation. It's usually a carnation that's dyed a different color. They're normally red or white. Sometimes you see green ones or blue ones there. Try this next one for 15 points in green things. A Venus flytrap has to resort to carnivory because it lives in soils that are deficient in 3 chemical elements with the symbols capital N small a, capital N small a, capital C small a, and capital N. What 3 chemical elements, what 3 nutrients are missing in the soils where Venus flytraps grow? Na, Ca, and N. Talk to each other.
I know that Ca is carbon.
I think Na is sodium.
Right.
N is the other one.
Do you think nitrogen?
Nitrogen, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Nitrogen.
Carbon.
Okay. Is everybody in agreement with what everybody says?
Yes.
Na is indeed sodium. N is nitrogen, but Ca is calcium. Calcium. Good try there, Alexa. Carbon is just a C, just a C. Good try. Here's your green things question for 25 points. Astronauts recently conducted a student-suggested experiment in space with cucumber plants, where they tested whether or not geotropism or hydrotropism had the greater influence on that cucumber plant's growth. When we talk about geotropism or hydrotropism, that is a choice between what 2 factors? Big words. What two factors?
So hydro means water, right? And geo.
Geo would mean rock, right?
Yeah.
Geological, that's the study of rocks. So what would the two factors be?
Maybe.
All right, you're halfway there. Donna got it right with hydro meaning water. So is it the attraction of water that makes the plant grow, or geotropism, which is gravity? Gravity is going to be compromised in outer space. So geotropism refers to gravity. Let's move on to the zoo. Despite its name, this arachnid that has a red hourglass on its abdomen is not in mourning for the husband she just ate. Actress Scarlett Johansson is playing this arachnid in a superhero movie.
Black Widow.
Black Widow is right. Thanks, Evan. Next, I got a visual for you. This is Zoo Parade for 15 points. This insect, very malodorous, is one of the few to belong to Hemiptera, Hemiptera, the only insect order that contains true bugs. Name that bug.
Stink bug.
It is the stink bug, absolutely. And those things show up in the weirdest places, don't they? You know, you'll be typing at your computer and it crawls out of the keyboard. Yeah, don't squish it because it stinks. Zoo Parade for 25 points. Speaking of stinks, stinky mammals like skunks and weasels and ferrets and honey badgers belong to a group of animals known as, here's a choice, ungulates, monotremes, or mustelids.
Can you repeat
These
the...
I certainly can. Stinky mammals like skunks and weasels and ferrets and honey badgers belong to a group of animals known as which of the following? Ungulates, Ungulates, monotremes, monotremes, or mustelids, mustelids. Which of the three?
Okay,
What do you think, Alexis? What do you think? Which one?
So
I'm thinking the third one, because must kind of sounds like it might have to do with smell.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. You got that for 25 points. You needed those points. And Evan, good thinking there, because it's musk that they produce, and that's where that mustelids comes from. All right, let's go to the body system questions for you. Somebody who is flat-footed obviously has fallen what?
Flat-footed has fallen.
Part of the foot, like a fall.
Say it again, Alexis. Go ahead.
I'm thinking that the word we're looking for has to be like a part of the foot, like that.
You are correct. So give me the part of the foot.
Fallen heel, maybe, or fallen arch. That would make their foot flat. Right, if the arch.
That's your
fall-
answer?
Sure.
All right. I like that answer. You're absolutely right. Fallen arches. Fallen arches causes flat-footedness. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Alexis, for chiming in there. Next, for 15 points, if your heart is in the right place, emotionally, it means you are a loving person. But if your heart is in the right place anatomically, it is beneath what bone? Evan's looking down.
Yeah.
Name that bone.
Does anyone remember what this bone is called? Is it like the collarbone, or?
Is it the cervix, or is that part of the head?
I have no idea what the cervix is.
Donna, what do you think? Name the bone. If your heart is in the right place, it's beneath the...
I was thinking rib cage. I'm
It
not.
would be inside of the rib cage. I don't know if it would be like beneath it.
Well, if it's inside, isn't it beneath it?
You guys you're circling around the right answer. Donna, the ribs all meet and join with that bone in the front here called the sternum or the breastbone, and your heart is right beneath that. So So that was the correct answer there. One more question for you before we take our first break. Like many COVID-19 patients, Virginia's governor, Ralph Northam, lost these two related body senses.
Smell and taste.
Smell and taste. You got it, Evan. And mercifully, they returned, as they do to most of the people suffering from COVID-19. That means that Greenbelt, you end this first half of this game with 125 points. Nice job. Nice job. It is now time to meet that team for Robert Goddard Montessori. Have been here once already. This is their second time in the round robin tournament. 270 points before. We'll see how many points they earn this time to see if it qualifies them as one of the two finalists coming up. Let's meet the team. First, our captain, Nathaniel. Nathaniel, give a nice wave and a smile to everybody out there. Ella, nice to have you here. Nice big smile and a wave. And Mason, a wave and a smile, please. I know last time you had your dog there with you. You know, I don't see him around. Maybe he'll come visit before we're finished here today. All right, guys, again, 9 questions in our first 3 categories, 5, a 15, and a 25. Let's start with green things for 5 points. Team, the people who help organize community events and political campaigns are often compared to these green things that anchor our lawns to the soil.
So, well, I know the term grassroots.
Yeah, it's probably grassroots.
So it's either roots or grassroots. Yeah.
It is grassroots. Thank you, Mason. You were right on that one. Got yourself 5 points. For 15 points, if you're raking leaves and start to sneeze, you can blame these reproductive units produced by moldy, decomposing leaves.
Mildew? Doesn't sound right. Anyone? Come on, guys.
I'm thinking spores, but I don't think that trees produce spores.
I don't think, I think that's fungi.
Well, fungi and some more primitive plants.
Right. Ella. Come on.
All right. The correct answer there is the one you all dismissed. Spores. Moldy, decomposing leaves. That mold, the mold there is what produces the spores. Sorry about that. Try the 25-point question in green things. Plants whose lifespan is just 2 years, like that of carrots, are known as these kinds of plants.
You know anything about these? I think it's biannual, right? Would it be biannual? Because that doesn't sound like...
That's better. It's better to guess than to not do anything.
You know what? Let's just guess biannual.
You're absolutely right. That guess got you 25 points. Yeah. Annuals come back every year. Perennials come back every year. Annuals live for just 1 year, and biennials have a 2-year lifespan. Nicely done, all of you. Let's go to the zoo. Florida's manatees were at one time mistaken for what half-human, half-fish creatures like Disney's Ariel.
Mermaids.
Mermaids.
Mermaids is right. Yes, indeed. All 3 of you chimed in on that one. For 15 points, a beautiful chrysalis containing a butterfly undergoing metamorphosis is also known as a what?
Cocoon.
A cocoon.
A cocoon is correct. Excellent. For 25 points, I have a visual for you. You know, the U.S. Navy's first nuclear submarine has the same N-initialed name as this chambered cephalopod.
Nautilus.
Nautilus.
It is a nautilus. It's a beautiful creature indeed. Got yourself 25 points. Let's go to the body system questions. If you don't want to go somewhere, you really don't want to go. You might act like your dog who is resisting going to the vet by just dragging your what?
Feet.
Your feet. You drag your feet. That's right. You know, you got a pull roper. He knows what's ahead. For 15 points under body. Well, COVID-19 primarily affects a person's lungs. Since so many victims are dying from stroke, the main target of the disease could be this organ.
Brain? Would it be the brain, guys?
Brain.
I think it's the brain, right?
Brain it is. Good group think there. Last question for you before we take our first break. When an intubated person has a surgical tube inserted into, an intubated person has a surgical tube inserted into the trachea, a sword swallower passes the sword's blade through this tube.
Is it
The
the
esophagus?
larynx? It's the larynx? No, that's a voice box. I don't know if that's a.
I think it would be esophagus.
Yeah,
I
would
think
it be?
esophagus.
Okay, esophagus. Yeah.
It is esophagus. You got it for 25 points. You know, it goes right down into the good ones, goes right down into their stomach. Don't know how they do that, how they don't gag. You had a good first round there, Robert. Goddard takes you 170 points. Congratulations. All right, it is now time to meet the players from Greenbelt Middle School. They've been here before, have done exceedingly well, and they're doing well today. And let's find out a little bit about our players and what they're doing during the pandemic. And we'll start with Evan. He's just trying to keep warm this morning. He's sitting there with his hood on. He said, it's freezing out there. Evan, nice to have you back. Tell us a little about yourself and your school.
Well, my name is Evan. My house is really cold. I have this hoodie on to stay warm. And our school, when we're allowed to go in the building, usually has a really nice heating system, and it keeps us all warm.
That's just great. And Miss Pagunson is your great coach over there, and I know she's preparing you guys to participate in this. Any future plans? What are you thinking about?
Well, honestly, I have like 25 different jobs that I feel like would be really fun. So I'm not really thinking about it too much yet.
That doesn't surprise me at all, Evan. You know so much about so many things, it's going to be hard to pinpoint one thing. Whatever you choose, I know you're going to be successful. You're a good captain. Let's find out about your players, your colleagues here. How about Dana? Dana, nice to have you with us today. Tell us how you've been preparing to do this. What do you do to prepare for Science Bowl?
I go over possible topics that might be questions, and
And you obviously keep up on the news because you're playing a good game. Evan is undecided about his future. What about you?
I'm also undecided.
There are too many choices out there. It's like, you know, you don't want to hitch your wagon to a particular star because maybe the other one's just a little bit better. I know you'll pick the right one. And how about Alexis? Alexis, nice to have you with us today. Tell us the Alexis story. How did you get to be a member of the team?
So Ms. Pagunson offered it to our class, and I have been watching Science Pool for quite a while. So I thought, oh, this is my chance. So I accepted it.
Oh, we're so glad you did. And Ms. Pagunson, she chose well. And I'm really glad you've been following Science Bowl for so many years, and you finally got a chance to be here. And I remember I hosted another show called It's Academic. There was a young man, he came on once, and I asked him, tell me why you're here. And he got tears in his eyes. And he said, Mr. Zarin, he said, I've been watching this show my whole life. And here I am. I've wanted to do this. So thanks for sharing that. All right, you guys ready for 9 more? Evan says, just hurry it up. I'm cold. I'm cold. All right, here we go, guys. Let's get physical for 5 points. It's multiple choice. Some things just aren't meant to be together, like oil and water. The word that describes their inability to blend is immiscible, impermeable, or impenetrable. Oil and water don't mix because they are immiscible, impermeable, or impenetrable.
When you force them to go together, it's called emulsifying. So I'm thinking emiss would probably be right.
Girls, what do you think? You going to back up your captain, or do you have another idea?
Can you repeat the choices, please?
The choices, again, of describing oil and water not being able to blend is immiscible, impermeable, or impenetrable.
I agree with you, Evan.
I think so too.
You're correct. It is immiscible, the very first one, for the very reasons you said. Impermeable means something can't get through. Also impenetrable, very similar. For 15 points, good work. Physical for 15. This planet, where stories written by Tarzan creator Edgar Rice Burroughs were often set, is now closer to the Earth than it will be until the year 2035. Name that planet.
Well, who was the one who wrote stories about it?
Edgar Rice Burroughs. He wrote Tarzan stories, and he set some of his stories, not about Tarzan, but he set some of his stories on this planet.
Okay, well, if he set stories on the planet, then it's probably not made of gas. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe Mars or Venus or Mercury.
I feel like Mars.
Yeah, that would make sense. Mars.
It is correct. Mars is the right planet. And, you know, Venus is actually closer, but Venus is so inhospitable, we're not even thinking about going there. But Mars, yes, was the correct answer. We continue. This is Let's Get Physical for 25 points. One of the building materials used to make the pyramids, and it's still used today, has the chemical formula CaO, calcium oxide, and is formed by heating CaCO3, calcium carbonate, that is found in what kind of sedimentary rock that has a citrus fruity name?
Oh, probably limestone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's limestone. You got 25 points. Let's go to Potpourri. 5 points. Who knew these, be they cumulus, cirrus, or stratus, could be so tasty, or that they could foretell a chance of meatballs?
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs is the story, probably. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Who knew that these, be they cumulus, cirrus, or stratus, could be so tasty, or that they could foretell a chance of meatballs?
Probably clouds.
Clouds is right, absolutely. I gave you 3 examples of clouds there. How many of you have read that book, or had it read to you, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs? It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Evan. 15 points, Potpourri. When the sun's infrared radiation is trapped by the Earth's atmosphere and reflected back at us, the effect is likened to what place where plants are grown under glass?
Greenhouse.
Yes, the greenhouse effect. For 25 points under Potpourri. A magnificent gem, GEM, which ranks as a 10 on the Mohs hardness scale, is known at the Smithsonian, where it is a big tourist attraction, as the Hope what?
Hope Diamond.
Hope Diamond. Thank you, Donna. Perfect. The Hope Diamond. Got yourself 25 points. You're on a roll. Dateline for 5 points. One of the many concerns of those suffering from COVID-19 is that the virus will so damage the lungs that this other disease will also set in, one that starts with a silent P.
Pneumonia.
Pneumonia is right. 15 points, visual question. Dozens of uses for the peanut were discovered by this famous African-American scientist.
George Washington Carver.
You got him right. Perfect. Last question of the game for you, Dateline for 25. Only the 4th woman to win a Nobel Prize. This year's winner, Andrea Ghez, won the prize in physics, following in the footsteps of the first woman to win the prize, this discoverer of the element radium.
Marie Curie.
Marie Curie is right, Donna, for 25 points. Good way to end that game. And Evan's clapping there to get warm, and he's happy. And you all should be clapping because you end the game with 260 points. Terrific job, Greenbelt. Terrific job. All right, it is now time, before we ask the last 9 questions of the team from Robert Goddard, to find out about our players here. And they're playing so well. They've always played well. Some of them are here where they were in elementary school. Let's start with our captain. And Nathaniel, tell us a little bit about yourself. Good, always good to have you here. You know so much about science. You're just a very studious young man, and all of your studying pays off in a venue like this. How do you know so much science?
I usually just pick this up. I read a lot of books when I was young about science. We read a lot of books, and there's a lot of just random science books lying around, so I picked up on that.
Wow. And you are not only a poster young man for science, but also for reading, because reading takes you everywhere. And if you have a curiosity about the world and things, you just absorb what you read, you're going to be a better informed. You're going to have a better life because you understand what's going on. What do you want to do someday?
I want to become an engineer for NASA someday.
Wow, they'd be lucky to get you. Very lucky to get you. Let's go to Ella. Ella, are you next, or is Mason coming up next here? The colleagues here that are joining Nathaniel on our program. Ella, nice to have you here today. Tell us the Ella story. What do you like to do during the pandemic? Because we have a lot of hours on our hands, it seems.
Well, I'm on Zoom calls a lot for school. I like to read, and I do watch a lot of TV.
Yeah. What do you like to read?
Mostly fiction books, fantasy,
Yeah.
sometimes sci-fi.
I have to ask you, Ella, you know, Evan was clapping to get warm. You're moving back and forth there. Do you have a swivel chair?
Yes, I recently got one.
Yeah, well, that's just great. Well, once we start playing again, maybe you can just kind of stop the swivel. But yeah, maybe your house is cold too. What do you want to do someday, Ella?
I don't know. I want to do something that's kind of hands-on. I thought about being a plumber.
Yeah. Well, there's a program here in the school system called You Build a House. And I remember once we had two very, very nice young ladies who were bricklayers. And they said, we just love this work because it's tactile, it's hands-on. So yeah, architecture, engineering, bricklaying, a lot of things go together like that. They can. Let's talk to Mason. Mason, nice to have you here today. I heard a dog barking earlier. Was that your dog or was that Ella's dog?
That was probably my dog because she always is looking out the window and seeing some squirrel running by and getting all hyped up.
Dogs and squirrels. Do they ever catch them? I don't think so. It's just they love the chase.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about yourself, Mason. You seem like a guy who's into a lot of things.
Yeah, I do try to be well-rounded a lot. I mean, I'm interested in science, of course, but I also like doing stuff like creating art. And one of the things that I've found myself enjoying a lot, especially during COVID, is I like editing videos and making like films and stuff.
Yeah. All right. So a future Steven Spielberg out there. You know, you're going to be a filmmaker. You could be. Or as an avocation. That's just great. You're a fine young man. Good to have you here. Good. 9 more questions for you in the game. And we ended up with esophagus in body. So let's get physical questions. Here we go for 5 points. While organic, in quotes, when it applies to food, describes pesticide and antibiotic-free fare. In chemistry, organic means the study of compounds that contain this particular chemical element.
What do you guys think? I'm thinking carbon or oxygen, but I'm not sure.
I was thinking carbon or nitrogen.
Nitrogen? But I think we are, I would say carbon more because like.
Okay, that's fair.
Because all life on Earth is carbon-based, so.
All right.
I would say carbon.
That's fair. Okay, let's go carbon.
The correct answer is carbon. 5 points. Super job. Next. 15 points in physical. Nature's natural sunblock that filters damaging UV rays is this gas that most people can smell easily after a thunderstorm. Its formula is O3.
Ozone.
It's ozone.
It is ozone, correct. For 25 points in physical. Even in the desert, you can make ice. If you dig a pit, line a ceramic dish with grass, and fill the dish with water. As the temperature drops and heat escapes into the atmosphere, ice forms. Is this process called convective cooling, situational cooling, or radiative cooling?
Well, it seems like it's radiating off the heat.
Wait,
like,
what?
Isn't it
Well, I mean,
I don't think it's situational.
I don't think it's
either
situational,
convective or radiative.
Well, convective is usually it has to do with the gases going around, right? So I think I'm gonna have to go with the one you said.
Radiation.
Yeah, radiative cooling.
Something like that. Radiative cooling. Yeah.
Let's go with that one.
That is correct. That is correct for 25 points. Excellent. Let's move on to potpourri. For 5 points, perhaps the best known science fair experiment is the one where a student pours vinegar into a model volcano filled with baking soda. These two substances that react to produce water and lots of carbon dioxide are two opposite kinds of chemicals known as these.
Acids and
Acids
bases.
and bases.
You got it right. For 15 points, multiple choice. If someone is cyanotic, cyanotic, someone is cyanotic, do they have pink eyes, yellow jaundiced skin, or blue lips?
Blue lips.
I'd go with
Yeah,
blue
because I
lips,
know. Well,
yeah.
I know that cyan is
Cyan
another
is
word
a
for like
color.
turquoise or something,
Yeah.
or like light blue.
Let's go with blue lips.
Let's go with blue
Absolutely.
lips.
And Ella, you were first on that one. It is indeed blue lips, and it's a sign that a person is deprived of oxygen, something EMTs always look for. 25 points in Potpourri. The layer of the earth found just beneath the rather thin crust and floating above the solid inner and outer cores is this layer,
Mantle.
which shares a name with the slab of marble often found above a fireplace.
Yeah, the
Mantle.
mantle.
Mantle is right. Yes. Dateline for 5 points. Next year, have your noise-canceling headphones ready for the constant din of these insects which return to Washington every 17 years.
Cicadas.
Cicadas.
I'm building a
Cicadas
hazmat suit.
Yeah, I mean,
Cicadas.
they're harmless, but they certainly look pretty nasty, and they're everywhere. For 15 points in Dateline, a recently discovered copy of the so-called greatest science book ever written, Mathematical Principles, which explained the principles of gravity, fetched over $19,000 in England and was written by this famous physicist.
Newton.
Yeah, it's Sir Isaac Newton.
It is Sir Isaac Newton. You knew that one. Last question for you is a visual. Dateline for 25 points. Someone who wins a Nobel Prize is forever known by a title that takes its name from these L-initialed leaves that encircle an Olympic winner's head.
Nobel laureate.
It is laureate, absolutely, from laurel leaves. That's 25 points. Terrific work there. Thank you all. That means you end this game with 305 points. Just amazing work. Congratulate yourselves. Hope you enjoyed this wonderful game. What talent we saw here today. We can see why these teams made it to the round robin semifinals. Our final tally today is Greenbelt 260, Robert Goddard 305, and with Robert Goddard's 270 points from their previous game in the round robin, they now have a total of 575. We'll have to see what happens with Greenbelt and Martin Luther King in our next game to see which teams will come back as the two finalists to win this year's middle school championship. I hope you tune in then. Until then, I'm Dave Zarin. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.